For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's second fall camp practice of 2019. Trojans came out with helmets only, just like they did on Friday. They have Sunday off. On Monday and Tuesday they'll go shoulder pads, and then once they do that they'll finish their acclimatization requirements from the NCAA, and they'll go to full contact and full pads on Wednesday. So definitely looking forward to that. But Dan, today, Saturday, what did you take away from this practice?
Well, on offense, I think I asked Clay about the quarterbacks in general, and he kind of gave you an answer for the whole offense, which was okay. Some good things and really good throws and some not so good and all of that. So I think that kind of applied to the offense. We haven't seen, without shoulder pads, and you're not going to really get a good feel for the run game either, but the feel you got today was it's not there. Yeah. Obviously, it's not going to be there when you can't block people. Yeah. But the defense looks like, I know Clay said something very interesting. He said, Clancy's doing what he said he was going to do. And it's simpler. They're able to play faster, and they look like they are. And they've got a kid right now who's on the big, hottest streak of the camp, obviously, Elijah Griffin, with his third interception and a pick six and just explosive. He's just awfully impressive. So it's been fun to watch the defense. I think actually, I'm more of the feeling that the defense is going to determine how this team does.
Interesting. You mentioned Elijah Griffin. Helton did tell us that he had 2 shoulder surgeries over the offseason. We were only aware of 1 prior to that. But like you said, he's on his hot streak, 3rd interception in 2 practices. He's on the second team, though. Do you see that changing going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm not going to say he's going to do this or that. But I think they've got 5 or 6 that you're looking at as first-team guys. Yeah. And I don't know, and then if Chris Steele comes along, we'll see where that plays out. But I think it's kind of a good problem. I don't think it's a problem you maybe thought you were going to have in the spring. And I know you read, any of the message boards, everybody was freaked out about how thin the secondary was going to be or all that. And what you kept saying is, hey, there are a lot of guys there. There are a lot of bodies. There are a lot of guys who had an awful lot of stars in high school and maybe more talent just on paper than they've ever had in modern times, certainly in times of the recruiting and the stars and all that. So it was just a matter of coming around, and it does look like they're all on the same page, that they're communicating well. As Clay said, you don't see any busted assignments. You don't see guys running free on offense because somebody didn't get the coverage right or whatever. So I think it was a good day. Good day for the defense, which I think translates to a good day for USC. If those guys come out and want to dominate and try to take over games and try to take the ball away, which they're doing, they're punching it and doing a lot of things that we didn't see last year. I think that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah, you and I, before we started filming, we were talking about the defensive front in particular. Guys like Brandon Peely, Marlon Tuipulotu, Christian Rector, Jay Tufele. Those guys, if they can get consistent, what's the potential of this team?
Well, I think, like, for example, Christian, and we're talking about this, if he's got that burst, that real get-off on that first step, which we saw a time or two today, he's a load. And so, I thought when they did come, which wasn't all that much, they really got there, and they have the potential to have the kind of front that can keep people off the linebackers. And if you've got John Houston, Jordan Iosefa, and Pali'e able to kind of run free, they can be they're pretty athletic, and if you've got people that are just not letting the offensive line get to those guys, they can be pretty disruptive, and they can really, take advantage of John Houston's, ability to run, and Pali'e's ability to just play side to side and be such a force with his size. So I like the way they're moving out there, and that's going to be key on the front four, not letting people move freely. So we'll see.
Yeah. As you said, Dan, Clay Helton described the quarterbacks as just okay today. He said they were off and on, which is at least fortunate that that's happening in fall camp where they can work on those issues. But Dan, Clay said that they would be two-spotting, which they haven't done yet, but they're doing a rotation where the quarterbacks rotate each day who goes first. Sometimes, JT Daniels is paired with walk-ons. Sometimes Keaton Slovis, the freshman, is paired with the first-team wide receivers. How do you think that rotation works out for guys getting experience with different quarterbacks and vice versa?
Well, I think it might be good to get a whole lot of reps quickly. I'm not sure how much longer you want JT throwing to walk-ons. I just doesn't probably, and they ran into that problem last year when the wide receivers were saying, boy, I wish I'd have had more time to work with JT in the, in the fall camp. We didn't get to throw much together. So I think, the sooner, it's tough. Working with 4 quarterbacks, that's a lot. I don't know that I've ever been around a team where you could give 4 quarterbacks enough work with the guys that they're going to have to be throwing the ball to. Yeah. So I think they probably got to get past that fairly quickly.
Do you think that will happen, though? We haven't really seen that if last year is an indication.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time we ask it, Clay will say something like, might take all 25 practices. Again, the 25 practices that we can't exactly figure out where are they. But that's, a side issue. You would think that if they go to the end of fall camp having not named a quarterback, that's probably not a positive sign. I think the sooner they can name a quarterback, the better they are in this offense. Because as Clay said, you got to have 8 wide receivers ready for this offense. Well, that's a lot of guys that the guy who is going to be the guy at quarterback, that's a lot of time, a lot of reps he needs to be on the same page with all 8 of those guys. Just little things like today, I think JT, the defender jumped the route and he kind of held his throw, and then he just flipped it, over the defender, and the receiver, I'm trying to remember who was it.
It was Drake London.
Drake London knew to keep his eye on the ball, stay in the play, and he made the catch, kind of on the sideline. And a really nice play. But obviously, that isn't the way it was drawn up, but those guys were on the same page. And they, also were not on the same page on the interception. So the more you can have them, I think, working, especially now that they feel pretty good about Drake London and about Munir McClain, and we'll see about some of the other freshmen. You'd probably like them on the field catching the ball rather than walk-ons. The walk-ons really work hard, do a nice job, are absolutely necessary in this program as much as 4 quarterbacks are going to throw the ball. But I think it'll be interesting to see where we are next week.
Yeah. We haven't really talked about special teams yet, but there is a star on special teams in Ben Griffiths. What have you seen from him? And as far as kickoff returns and punt returns go, what are you seeing from those guys?
Well, they made a special point yesterday and to some extent today in getting the substitutes, or substitutions on and off from first team to second team in all the special teams groups. I know it's probably a reaction to last year when they, ran guys out there and maybe only had 9 or 10. Yeah. I'm not sure the whole substituting an entire team for one another completely solves that problem, but it does put a great emphasis on it. Yesterday they did it without actually punting the ball or place kicking it. Today they actually did punt it. And Ben Griffiths is, he's hang time. We had shotgun there with his, baseball stopwatch. And I think everything was a hang time of 4.6 to 5.2 seconds, which is pretty spectacular. He can do. We watched him warm up, and he can kick it. He can kick it deep. He can turn it over. He can kick it high. He can kick it, on the run. You could call it rugby style or Aussie rules style, and he can kick it, at a precise position. He can kick it end over end with the bounding ball that you better catch, or it's going to, bounce and roll. It's one of those things you kind of hope your punter doesn't have to show everything he can do, but in his case, it's really interesting to watch somebody as skilled as he is and with the ability to do so many different things. they're getting him ready to do even more things. I mean, he's got so many like ball skills now. He's obviously the holder now, it looks like, and maybe even more when he lines up back there as a punter. We won't say what, but he's fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. As far as injuries go, defensive lineman Jacob Lichtenstein was out for another day. We didn't get a full sense of why, though. Clay Helton only talked about Solomon Tulialapupu. He's been out with foot soreness. That's been plaguing him for over a year now, which is a little concerning on that end. Wide receiver John Jackson was out today after suffering a light ham, is what Clay Helton described it as.
But give him credit. He came out dressed with his helmet and everything. I didn't think we'd see him at all after yesterday. So he may have caught that before it, really got to be a serious tear, and good for him. And I guess you heard that he just rehabbed and rehabbed and rehabbed. So great for John. I mean, that's the kind of thing you worry about, can knock you out of all of August.
Yeah. So it looks like John is making progress with his hamstring. Brandon Peely returned and was a pretty much full participant in practice today. We're not sure what really plagued him yesterday. The fall entrant Dorian Hewitt was dressed out in practice today. He did show up to campus basically right before fall camp started, so I think he had to get acclimated on Friday. But as you said, Dan, Dorian got a little bit of a welcome to fall camp today.
Yeah, I mean, he came up hard and quick on one of those quick short, almost not quite stop route to Michael Pittman, who just buried him. I mean, just steamrolled him, just head over heels, not exactly, but I mean, they don't have pads on yet, but it was a match he probably didn't. That gets you, okay, now I'm in college and now this is how it works. And it was a lot of people are kind of mismatched now when they run into Michael Pittman. Yeah. He's just, yesterday, I know he had Elijah Griffin on a fade in the end zone, and Elijah was trying to do climbing his frame and doing everything he could, and there wasn't enough to do. I mean, he's just too big.
Yeah.
So Dorian, welcome to the club.
Yeah. Some little notes, Josh Follow was limited today. Apparently he was limited yesterday. We missed that, but Shotgun updated us on that. And then Vivai Malapai spent the latter portion of practice with the trainers. Not sure what's going on with that, but didn't look too serious. But Dan, before we wrap it up, next week is an important week, obviously, for fall camp. What are you expecting from this team?
Well, I mean, they get shoulder pads on, and that'll be fun. I mean, they've been practicing like almost, as you said, that they're in pads, which is kind of fun to watch. It'll be really, fun to see. I mean, I think the offensive line has to be looking forward to having a chance to block somebody where you can really block somebody, whereas if you don't have those shoulder pads on, there's just nothing much you can do against an active defense. And I think, that's the thing you want to be able to see is how are they going to run it, who are they going to run it with. We haven't, seen Stephen Carr very much, or we've seen Keenan Christon like once a practice he'll catch a swing pass and accelerate up the sidelines, and that's fun. And I hope they do that every game. I hope they make people get him on the field and run swing passes enough that every time he's on there you got to be totally aware of where he is, because if he's got the ability, if he beats one guy, the rest of them aren't going to catch him. So that's fun, to watch. And I think we'll get more of an idea of how that part of the game is going to work. And I think with the defense, we'll get more of a chance to see them, their pursuit has been good. Their pursuit angles, they're not tackling anybody yet, but I think we'll get a chance to get closer to that. And again, I just think that will determine how well they do. If they play really consistent, tough-minded, all-out, smart, mistake-free football on defense, they're going to have a chance.
Yep, for sure. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's second practice of fall camp. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.